Tim Dillon. Tim Dillon is I would call him a gay conservative. He would hate to be called conservative, but he kind of is. He's kind of with a bunch of other gay conservatives like Douglas Murray, Glenn Greenwald, Dave Rubin. At some level, Milo Yiannopoulos was one too. He's kind of fallen off. I don't know what happened to him. But they were kind of had this moment after Trump's election where they were speaking better sense on the conservative side.
Like they were the only people talking sense. Yeah.
Right. And it was weird. It was like, I felt like it almost had to do with their gayness that they were able to do it. It was like they had already been socially outcast because they're older gay men. They've already experienced social outcastness that they had already kind of conquered the fear of it, you know?
Yeah.
So whereas like Republicans were kind of afraid to deal with the Trump thing for getting socially outcast, these guys were speaking, very clearly and well, Yeah. So Tim Dillon, a stand-up comedian, loves to say outrageous things. That's the point of his life, basically. That and to love God, which we have to catch him up with. But Long Islander native. He's on the Joe Rogan Podcast. And Ben tried to clean it up for our audience. He took out some of the swear words.
It's just like a long string of beeps, though, but you'll get the point.
Okay. All right, let's play that.
It's like you could see he's saying the green grass is coming through the snow.
Yes, all the cool kids now are unwoke. Some of them are going back to Christianity because it's the only way to be rebellious. Because, everybody's blue-haired, non-binary talking about and that's like, it's the cover of Newsweek. So you have to be like a Catholic Opus Dei, like saying the rosary to be a problem now.
Yeah.
Like you used to be able to just dye your hair and get a tattoo and a nose ring. Now that's like, oh, what are you running for Congress? So now the other side of it is a lot of people are kind of going, there's elements of that are good and there's elements of that are not great probably. But, that's what young kids are doing now because they're like, this. They're like, they've realized that how empty this current world is that we've created spiritually for people because it is empty.
It is empty.
It's just very empty. It's about money and profit and everything has no history or tradition. Or everything's so disorienting. Things happen so quickly that the pace of change is like making people go, what the f-? And people need to situate themselves in the universe and they don't know how to do it. And they're going, dude, I'm like, this rock is spinning and I don't know what's going on. And every day there's a new edict about what you can say, what's real and what's not. And people are going back to things that root them. And one of them is religion. And I think religion has a lot of positives. I mean, there's some negatives, but I think religion has positives for sure.
It's definitely a good moral scaffolding for a lot of people.
You need something to ground you, make you humble, make you realize that you are living for a finite amount of time on earth. You should treat people with respect. There's a code is good to have a moral code. I'm not saying what yours should be or not, but just the constant stuffing money down your throat, having tons of meaningless sex, constantly obsessing over material things. These are probably ultimately spiritually empty things.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, let's summarize what he just did, and then let's summarize these other signposts in this social moment. Mm-hmm. Tim is saying that the youngest people in our society, in order to be punk rock, are becoming Catholic, and they're not just becoming Catholic.
Yeah, they're like becoming like Opus Dei traditionalist Catholics, is what he says.
Right. They have to be radically Catholic. They can't be vanilla Catholic. They have to be like extremely Catholic, right?
Yeah.
Which part of our whole point is that extremely Catholic means extremely normal, extremely with God, extremely in relationship. It doesn't mean a lot of symbols, right?
Yeah. It's like people want restraint and meaning in their lives. And it's like there's nothing offering that other than religion. And Tim Dillon had the exact same
point.
Observation. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't think Tim Dillon really knows the heart of Catholicism, but I do think he knows what the vibe is.
Yeah.
The part of the left that is usually labeled as the progressive part of the left kind of controls discourse a lot, right?
Yeah.
And it's at the same time showing itself to be very bankrupt and contradicting some even basic natural laws, right?
Yeah.
Like, just like they never act like heterosexual marriage is actually a really good thing,
Yeah.
or that family is in fact really important, not just for individuals and their happiness, but even for society. You know, like there's just basic truths. Even abortion is an example that they don't seem to honor, you know?
Yeah.
And the youth are kind of like discovering this, like the Gen Zs, right? And in discovering that, that's what they, I think, are calling a red pill moment. Like they're like, whoa, you know, I'm getting lied to constantly. It's like a conspiracy, dude, you know?
Yeah.
And then when you look around, you're like, what's the most radical way to be anti this? And it's like Catholicism, because we've been saying these things for, you know, longer than this empire has been around, longer than the last empire was around, longer than, you know, like for millennia, you know?
Yeah.
So in a way, Catholicism is getting a lot of credit and people are identifying with it, but that's kind of different than the core of conversion and evangelization, you know?
Yeah. But I guess like, I know that the New York Times article sort of visited the theme of posing and LARPing just because it's like a way to be transgressive, you know, and is it authentic or is it not authentic? And I don't want to examine anybody's, but I do think it's like, it has to be right. Just always reminding, you know, having in mind, it has to be more than the sort of like culture war winning idea or anything like that, right? And maybe there's some people that are kind of high on the culture war stuff or the transgressive thing, and they need to be brought into the deeper.
I think ultimately we're not in a culture war, meaning like there is a culture war happening, but we need to have a positive vision, and there is nothing stopping you right now from enacting that vision. The progressives aren't stopping you. The government's not stopping you. You are to enact your vision of the kingdom on earth right now, period.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a positive vision. It's not an anti-gay rights vision.
Yeah. And it's a vision that like promotes and is streaming from like being in relationship with God.
Right. So part of the reason why this new traditionalism is related to this is because it's seen as the most opposed, like the most radically different than the progressivism, right?